Good morning. This pearl is about my experiences with life after death. And I think I should share it with you. They're very personal, and they started when I was about 10 years old. Well, they started before then, but the really the big ones were when I was 10, all the way up till just recently when my mother passed away in 2017. So I'll give you a couple of those highlights. First, when I was, and let's thank creation for being created. Okay, first, when I was 10 years old, we had a family dog named Cookie. And it was one of those summer days, back then my age, we didn't have internet, we didn't have cell phones, we didn't have a lot of stuff. Yeah, I didn't even have a bicycle. So I decided to take the dog for a walk, about a mile, half mile, to go get a model airplane to have something to do. And there was a busy intersection that we crossed, but it was a normal walk for me because I walked that way all the time going back and forth to school. So this time I took Cookie for a walk. And when we got to the intersection, the light was red, we stopped. And I didn't have Cookie on a leash because she was very good. She always stayed with me. She didn't run off. And I thought, why, limit her to a leash when she could go explore and come back and be at my side. So anyway, the light turns green, and they called it 5 points because there was 5 streets that intersected in this one, and the one was a boulevard, Indianapolis Boulevard. And that was very busy. Oh gosh, it was like at least 6 lanes. More. We start crossing Indianapolis Boulevard from one of the intersecting points there, and on Indianapolis Boulevard, back from where we were at the other intersection, was a car full of drunks. And I guess they figured, 10 points if you hit the dog. So they decided to run the red light. Yeah, that was really traumatic. They hit my dog. They would have hit me if she wasn't a few feet in front, but they ran her over. And it was right in the middle. Now I'm right in the middle of the intersection, and I'm hovered over here. And it was a busy intersection. A lot of people saw what happened. And so I remember one guy came up to me and says, "You got to get out of here. This is dangerous. You're going to get hit." And I was like, "No, I can't leave my dog." So he said, "Okay." He goes, "We'll take her back to the curb." So he grabbed her hind legs, and she had blood coming out of every orifice. Her heart was beating so fast. I just kept saying, "Cookie, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay." And what did I like you say? Anyway, as I was crying, obviously in shock, but no, I wouldn't leave her. I was kneeling over her. And she died. And what was interesting was what I felt. I actually felt the most, like my body was, it went through me. It was peace. It was love. It was no pain. It was like everything was okay. It was like, oh my gosh, this is really incredible. I got my dog, my other dog here now. Her name's Star. Anyway, come here, Star. Get out from under the tripod. So anyway, I didn't know what else to do, so I grabbed Cookie by her hind legs and dragged her corpse home, which was devastating for the rest of my family. But at that point, it just really made me focus on, wow, what happens to us when our body dies? What was this that I felt come out of her body that was so beautiful, so loving, so peaceful? Sorry, don't get into that. Anyway, and that's, I'm well past 10 years old now. So I've had other experiences. I was, for my divorce, I ended up with hepatitis C, not from my divorce, but that was the cause, that was the end of it. He abandoned me, and that was back before there were any cures. So I was one of the test patients for FDA to get safety data on some new drug that was supposedly able to work, but not really tried on anybody. Man, that thing was horrible. The Mayo Clinic took me, and I was one of 7, and this was very limited. It was very expensive. I don't know if they had to go into outer space to make this stuff or what, but it cured everything. And it cured me. I'm talking like 20 some years ago. But I had to give myself an injection, and how bad this stuff was out of the 7 people that Mayo Clinic watched while they did this protocol, 5 of them were hospitalized for pretty much the duration of these treatments, which was a year. But the first one was the worst. So I injected myself. I was at home, and I had an out-of-body experience. I don't know if I was like on the verge of death or what, but it was great. It was like I laid in my bed, I knew I was sick, and I knew take this medicine, give yourself an injection, and lay down. And the next thing I know, I'm out of my body, and I'm like floating above myself, like towards where my stereo equipment is, just going, wow, is this great? No pain, like no pressure on you, but you like I was me, except I wasn't in my body. I was free. Oh my gosh, it was great. And I was like, wow, where can I go with this? And that was like, and then all of a sudden, boom, I'm back in my body going, oh my gosh. And it was horrible. It was horrible. But I had that experience. And so when people say they had an out-of-body experience, I do not doubt them. Because why make this stuff up? Anyway, there's been other experiences that happen, my dog's dying and stuff like that, which just kept giving me more proof of, and also seeing people, and then people who, for a while, there were people who were departed, were like coming out of the woodworks. And I asked for some of these gifts to be taken away, because it felt kind of overwhelming, to like be in this world and see beyond the veil, like everywhere. So, yeah, I know, but if you ask to see beyond the veil, you start seeing things, you might want to like say thank you, but no thanks anyway. My mother, okay, so let's get to that one. I actually saw her entrance into heaven, and that was so beautiful. My mom and I have always had a troubled relationship, to the point where I left home when I was 13 years old. And I'll save some of those details for another long-winded video. But anyway, I tried to reconcile with her so many times. My father was there to help me the best that he could, okay? And so I never, ever held a grudge against my dad, because if anything, he made me feel that when the whole world was turned against me, I would always have one ally, which was my father. I actually saw him give his life to save me in a certain situation that just blew me away. It was like, oh my gosh, that is pure love. So I couldn't hold badly on her, but my mom hated my father. Their marriage was not a good one, and she blamed him for so much, and she turned the rest of my brothers and sisters against my father. I'm the oldest, and I did go to college. I put myself through school, and it's part of living on the streets at 13. You learn at an early age what you don't want to happen to you and what would be nice for it to happen. But anyway, one semester I owed Purdue University over $7,000. And I wasn't coming back to school to finish my degree in engineering if I didn't pay them. So I always worked during the summers, but there was no work that time in West Lafayette. So I asked my father if I could come home. And I didn't want to live with my mom, and my father was glad, which was great, because my brothers and my sister were like, oh my gosh, what are you doing? Like, you're going to go live with the devil himself. I was like, no. And it worked out good. My dad actually ended up, as a result of me living with him, my brothers and sisters saw that my dad wasn't the evil person that they thought he was, and that helped them develop a relationship. But my mother and I, we tried to restore a relationship as I grew older. And this bit about how horrible my dad always kept coming up, and I always kept saying, let's not go down that route, but it never happened. So we just had a very strained relationship. Anyway, my mom got sick, and I knew she was dying. And I'm about 2,000 miles away from where she was. And I just knew that if I ever wanted to say goodbye and reconcile anything, that I had to go. And so I called her doctor and said, why am I getting these feelings? And he told me, no, you're kind of like, you're fine, don't worry about it. But no, I was right. So I guess those promptings that we all get, we really need to listen to. So anyway, I got online and I noticed that Frontier Airlines had a really great rate. And I was like, great, I'm leaving tonight. And sure enough, it was a good thing. So I was with my mom when she passed. And she was afraid. She wanted to go, but she was afraid. And she was in hospice. And they gave her a shot of morphine. And that wasn't enough. And they gave her another shot of morphine. And, I guess you like OD on morphine when you're in hospice if you can. And that was enough to do it for her. So I was in the room waiting, and my sister-in-law came in. She wanted to see my mom and say goodbye before she died, but the shots of morphine were already given, and we didn't know that that was enough to send her over. So we waited, and it was about 3 o'clock in the morning, and I was playing solitaire or something on my phone, and all of a sudden this bright, warm, but I mean like luminous, bright, white light, filled the room. And, it got my attention. And the next thing I know is I saw my mom standing before a man who was like 19 years old. And off to the side was like another woman who was like 19 years old, kind of like just waiting for whatever was going to go between my mom and this young man. And it had dawned on me. The young woman was my mom's natural mother, who she always wanted to see. She died in birth, and so my mom never knew my mother. And that was like her main prayer was that when she passed on, she would meet her mother. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's her mom. That's Olga. Okay. So, but who is this young man? I never saw him before. And then it dawned on me, it was my father. And I saw pictures of my dad, when he was in the military, and, saw him like when I was older, okay? But I never saw him when he was 19. I mean, I wasn't even created then or thought of. And I was like, oh my gosh. And then it like really freaked me out, because my mom, who hated my father and could say nothing good about him, why was he there be like the most horrible person in history who, I'm not going to say any words here, but you can figure it out. Said like the most horrible person in history who killed millions of people in like these weird work environments, okay, to where they were like trucked in like cattle. Standing there meeting one of his victims at the pearly gates. I mean, I just didn't get it. And boy, I really had to pray about that one. And anyway, this is what was revealed to me. Was, when you go back home, you're not taking all that baggage with you. And so I guess my mom needed the love from my father, when she was there. And, her mother was there to welcome her. And it was a beautiful, loving environment. And this is what's really so weird about it, was that one experience of like seeing my mom go home. And, me wondering like, wow, why is my dad there? And then, finding out, no baggage in heaven, okay, was enough for all of the grief and all the hardship that I had with my mom. And trust me, there was a lot of stuff that went on that I didn't mention, which is the reason I left home when I was 13, okay? It's totally reconciled. I love her. I'm so glad that she's back home. And I know in her heart, she never meant any illness towards me. I didn't know that up until that time. So that was the blessing that I got. But I just want to share these very sensitive personal times with you because the world that we're in right now, Star, get away from my thing. Okay. The world that we're in right now is not the world that we go home to. So I hope this helps you. And if you're concerned about any of your children or family members or friends or anybody, okay, who has left this reality to go back home, don't. My gosh, worry about yourself, not them. They are in a beautiful, loving, wonderful environment. Cookie, my dog, oh, the contentment and bliss that I felt coming through her soul leaving their body. And seeing my mom's entrance into heaven. And that brief moment of me leaving my body, yeah, they were all really good times. So God bless you all, and thank you for watching. And if you have any comments or want to contact me, my email is opinionsfrommary@gmail.com. I'll do my best to respond as soon as possible. And in the meantime, I hope you have a most wonderful and blessed day. Thank you. Bye.